Okay, here with Saham, who is our associate producer, post-production coordinator, and assistant editor. Um, Saham, I think of everyone involved in this project, came on the latest.
Right.
Um, I met with you when I was looking for editors um, way back when, and I met you like toward the end of my like sort of weeks long editing. Uh, I met with about 40-ish editors, and like you were at the tail end of that, and so I'd already kind of like formed my team, and I remember kind of being bummed because I wanted you on the team, and I really like
Mm,
felt a good connection with you. Um, but like the team had already been semi-formed. And so
mm,
um I feel like maybe you felt something similar, or at least you felt enough to reach out to me a couple times like after we met, which I'm really glad you did because you happened to at a really opportune time when we actually needed someone else on deck. And so you came on then. And since then, we didn't really know what your role was going to be, but you have stepped up. You have like, really been working hard and taken on roles that you probably didn't expect to do.
mm.
Uh, but yeah, so like what was that experience like for you? Like when we first met, uh, all the way till like not thinking you'd be working on this to now working
Mm.
on this and gradually becoming more and more integral to our team.
Um, yeah, it was, I think, late December or late November, first time we met. Um, yeah, I think I told you in the first meeting too, like when I watched the very first rough cut of the movie, that just felt like one of those projects that I used to work with my film family in Chicago. So it really felt like home, to be honest. And, I that and then I think the other thing that we really connected that our love of indie filmmaking and indie film industry throughout the history, especially back in the 60s and 70s, how you know the raw indie filmmaking was more popular, and so that's why I felt like comfortable like wanting to be at least networking with you, like I think at the end of that meeting I was like, I get it if if you go with someone else, but be more than happy to be basically in touch with you, and you said it too, like, hey, just uh, if you don't mind, just check in with me, and maybe I'll find a way or find something for you, and my basically prescription, not prescription, my point of view was most likely the next project, basically, I wasn't necessarily thinking, oh, I'm gonna be back on this project, but yeah. So throughout and I remember it was, I think, March or April, that I was basically reorganizing my files and stuff. I came across your cut again. I was like, you know what? Let me just check in with you, see how the editing goes. If it's especially that time of the year is beginning of the film festival, well, mostly the European Film Festival. So I was like, you know what? Let me see if they you know, got it done or they're ready for festivals. I just wanted to see where it's gone. So I reached out and you were like, hey, yeah, this is what's happening. You give me up to date, and we had a meeting with your editing team basically to finish up the last steps to start the actual editing of the film. So yeah, that was interesting, but unexpected, as you said, and I'm definitely delighted, working with your team and trying to get this film home, basically, get it, make it everybody to watch it, and make the best out of it. To be honest, like I told you, like, I read the screenplay at first. I saw a lot of potential. I saw the movie. I'm like, okay, this has definitely more potentials. So, so yeah, that was that was how I myself got, interested and intrigued to be part of the film. Uh, Sorry, the door is open. See, that's you cutting off. But the other thing is,
I had just
I
met with my brother and he's visiting and he's at my parents' house and my mom walked in and it was we're gonna let people just watch this if they really want to. Uh,
but
yeah.
yeah, but like now I'm like kind of turning the table now, like especially this is your film. I think everybody would love to know what made you want to become a filmmaker or a storyteller, and especially telling this a story. What made you want to shoot this film and tell this a story? What were, the steps, basically the process, the mindset basically behind building that a story, and then again starting the pre-production.
Yeah, I think it really just and I think with you more than anyone on the team, I really bond with like a love for film. I get the sense that you probably had a similar relationship to film as I did growing up, or at some point in your life where it
Right.
had a profound impact on who you
Hmm.
are. So that was my childhood, and by the time I was like 16, 17, 18, I was writing every day of
Mm.
my life, in screenplay format. I had written about 12 to 15-ish feature scripts.
How did you learn that? Like, did someone teach it at this high school or?
Uh, uh, I My brother, who I just talked to, pursued film, so he was definitely a big influence.
Mm.
Um, I I when I was 12 or 13, I had watched or whenever AFI released the top 100 American films,
Mm.
my mom and I spent that summer watching like about 70 or 80 of them. So by the time I was like 13, I had seen all the great American films. So then I was like, where do I go from here? And then like, my in my later teen years, I started diving into foreign films.
Mm.
And I had a very wide knowledge of film
Mm.
uh, uh, at a very young age, in the history of film, and then I on top of that, I was fortunate enough to do a New York Film Academy program, uh, that just because I just talked about this a little bit with my brother, but he was working there, and then we were able to like get me in. Basically, it's a very expensive program, but we were able to get me in for free because I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise. As long as I paid for the film stock, but I actually got to go to the program basically for free,
Mm.
14 or something, and I uh, was into acting when I was a kid. And that was the moment when I realized I wanted to be a filmmaker, because I got to shoot on 16 millimeter for the first time. I got to like make a real movie, and
Mm.
I suddenly understood uh, like what a director does. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. Because as a kid, you just kind of look at actors and you think like, oh, they're
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So how did I get into like writing and screenplay format? I'm trying to even think. Well, I think just after that, at some point I probably started reading scripts. I
Mm.
also did, but I went to NYU Film School, but before that, I also did like a summer program at NYU. So I did a lot of these like programs, and I think at some point I just learned like screenplay format. I don't think I was even using like Final Draft at first. I was just like
Right.
doing it on like Word or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and yeah, by the time I was like 18 though, I was writing every day and I was writing
Wow.
features. They were not very good.
No, but that just the fact that keep it rolling and that mind having that mindset, just not let it linger in your head, it's something, but what letting it out, it's something else. It's that's a biggest step that a lot of people don't do, I think.
Yeah, and it's something that's very interesting because when um I did that all through my 20s, and then like somewhere in my 30s I kind of stopped for a while. I'm in my
Mm,
late 30s now. But like my like early to mid 30s I just kind of stopped writing. And because I was just working in different industries. And
mm,
um about a couple years ago I kind of started revisiting screenwriting again. And I was very nervous about it because I was like, I
mm,
thought I thought it would be really bad, and I'd be really rusty. And the really fascinating thing that happened, and I think it really happened with this script, is that I would never make any of the scripts that I wrote in the past. I think if I get
mm,
to make more films, I think they will help influence. I
mhm,
might use aspects of them in things I write, but something special happened with the big break. And it's very weird because like uh I thought I would be rusty, but instead it's like I had put my hours in, and like I needed to step away. And it was
yeah.
a break that actually like it's just something clicked with me. And I was like, this is like my voice. It's like I my voice like having after having not written for a few years. And I don't know if it was the limitations or whatever, because a big part of this was just like I need to make a movie. And so I
Mm,
really just stripped it down to like put a few people in a house. Maybe another reason I was scared to write was that I just didn't want to write another script that didn't get made. And so I promised myself that if I'm going to write a script, I have to make it. So
that's great.
I made sure that there was like it was so the elements of it were so like stripped down that I could
Hmm,
do it
hmm,
basically myself with like a few people in a house. And that's more or less what happened. And the irony is like um that I'm really proud of the script, but I will say I didn't expect much other than to just like scratch that like itch of like I have to do this at some point in my life. It wasn't until we were on set and I
mm.
saw the actors. um
Speaking of,
what's that?
speaking or acting it all out, huh? And you saw it in person.
Right. It was like it was the chemistry that the actors had on set.
Yeah.
What it really was I wasn't expecting performances like what we got. They truly blew me away. And
Mm,
I think we all kind of realized on set that something special was happening. And that made me realize, after I edited my cut, which you saw, I was like, this is bigger than that. And that's, why you've come on board and why I've put together a whole post-production team, and why I'm taking post-production so seriously, because this I think is a special movie, and I really hadn't anticipated it.
hmm.
Um,
It's good.
yeah. So you live in LA. You're the only person I think working on this film, other than my brother who lives in LA. Um, so you're in the industry.
I don't know.
That,
Close by.
well, why don't you? I lived in LA a little bit.
Right.
For me, it was not like the most positive experience. I'm curious, like what your journey has been out there. How long have you been out there? Are you fulfilled? Um, tell me about like where your love for film and filmmaking started, and what being in LA is like right now for you.
Uh,
Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, it's a lot of course.
Can pick any part.
Elements to it, yeah.
Maybe just start with like how like about your love for film.
My love for film, yeah, I guess like you said, maybe similar to what you said, movies had impact on me since I was a childhood. But
Was
the
there
big difference, what was that?
Was there like one or two, or was it just like a
No,
onslaught?
no, yeah, there were a few, but the crazy part is like, being on the other side of the planet, basically, but especially be living under restricted rules that are American movies are banned, and you're not allowed. At the time, actually, I was growing up, it was even banned to own a VHS player. So the way we were watching movies, American movies, uncensored.
For people watching this, that you grew up in Iran, right?
Exactly, in Iran, Tehran, Iran, and at the time, one of my aunts, she was a huge movie buff. So how the system, the bootleg system work was, we had a movie guy instead of like he would show up at your house with a big medical bag. You would think this guy is the doctor of the family, but in his bag is full of VHS and Betamax films, and he would give you a synopsis to my aunt, and I remember sometimes my cousins and I were just watching waiting for like at the time we loved Batman cartoons and Ninja Turtles, and we were waiting for him to say that, but she would like check on him, like ask him if it would be appropriate for us to watch. Sometimes, so sneaking, but so that's how I was watched the RoboCop and a lot of Bruce Lee movies. Bruce Lee has a lot of huge fans, and in Iran, to be honest, he part of the culture, to be honest. Dumb and Dumber had a huge had an influence on me, but on the other hand, somehow one of my cousins who actually now still lives in LA, he was visiting home for the very first time, and he brought me and my brother like the original VHS of Terminator 2, and that when we watched that, and I'm like, that really changed. But it wasn't something that I would think, like you were saying. Like for me, I still was looking for the lead actors or stuff like that
Yeah.
until we moved. Fast forward to 2001, when we moved, my family and I moved to
We're the same
uh,
age, so you would have been like 15 then.
yeah, yeah, 15. So moved to US. We started living in Santa Monica for a year, and that time my brother and I were just getting movies left and right. Just because it's not like you don't learn English in Iran, but it's the listening and the slangs, and you want to improve that. So the movies was the uh, to be honest, the best practice for that. And we started going to Blockbuster. With another one back in Iowa was another called the Lester Movies. So we would like rent left and right movies, and until I watched Raging Bull, I was like, holy shit, like, who is this guy who made this? I really wanted to learn about who, like, all that decisions. That was the time that I really want to learn about behind the scenes. I started trying to, watch all the behind the scenes and finding interviews, film magazines. And when I watched Memento, I was like, whoa, what just happened? Like I thought I was just learning and getting up to speed, and when I watched Memento, I really want to learn about screenwriting, the fact that how the structure he completely went opposite way. I had never, I mean, I always was a fan of nonlinear filmmaking or storytelling, Pulp Fiction, I don't know, Usual Suspect, Seven and stuff, or Fight Club, all these movies that had twists and turns.
Mm.
But Memento was just very different for me, that I really want to learn about screenwriting. So
Was
those two really wanted to learn about and getting to filmmaking, and that was the one that really sparkled, uh, you know, that desire inside of me. So,
and
but then I go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, so your family moved to Santa Monica. Was this
Yeah, we lived there for a year.
serendipity or was it film like
No,
there
it
must be
I
some
had a
there
huh?
must be some serendipity there in that like you moved to like basically the
It, it it's funny you say that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because at the time I had this movie buff friend who was my brother's age. He's 5 years older, but and he had like he would take us to these movie locations and all that, and and yeah, so that you sometimes yeah, you would and sometimes you get a glimpse of the premieres, and you were wondering what movie is getting premiered, and so yeah, I guess that was a little bit part of it, but again, after a year, we moved to Iowa because my family, my parents, their family, most of the family was in Midwest, so and they decided it would be better for us to finish our school over there, and we had some bad experiences there, so just wanted to get away. They wanted to get away. They felt more home to be closer to family over there. But I always thought I'll be coming back. So that's why even I finished school in engineering. I remember my first time I got laid off from my job. I was like, my buddy again, the same buddy. Told me, hey, you're in Chicago area. There's this website, Mandy, which you and I are connected. Go see there are some jobs out there for me, and that's how I met my first filmmaking family, and I started making short films, and then they helped me to make my short film, then I helped them make their features. And but there was a time that I was like, okay, I really want to go back to be close to the industry, so that was 2017, and I was like decided to move to LA. I still doing working basically in mostly in engineering industry, but I wanted to be close. I was basically prepping to doing a short film in LA. COVID happened. Then after that, I again kind of like you were saying, I just all of a sudden felt like I don't know, like just flown away, and like it really all of a sudden was very distant, and all of a sudden a dear friend of mine who was, from childhood, and another friend whom we had plans to make a film in Iran, but stuff like that. And when he passed away, I was like, how all of a sudden I don't have that opportunity again. So I really want to go back to, doing more stuff, movie related, and basically, and I thought editing would be good example, a good opportunity, basically, like because one part of it is kind of going to your second part of the question regarding LA industry, because the industry, a lot of films now being shot mostly outside of LA, but if you're an editor, you can do it, remotely. You can still make connections, you can get gigs. So and still live here, and so that's I um it's funny. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people say that, oh, you should go more focus on in engineering, and because how industry is getting bad in LA. But somehow I don't get that feeling. Like it makes me more motivated, to be honest, and also so far in the past year made me to make connections or network with a lot of new people that I never thought I would be crossing paths, to be honest. And a lot of them are genuine, you know, talented filmmakers or want to be storytellers. I know some people don't like it, call it to be a storyteller, but I genuinely want to become a filmmaker because I think there are stories to be told that are not commonly told. Like again, like I have a different background, different culture that you don't necessarily be seen, in major films. Or nowadays, there's a success of Parasite I've made that maybe opened the doors for Asian film industry, especially South Korea. But that has been existed, but now has a better market in US. So But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it maybe it's definitely if you want to work on set, perhaps it's rough, but I think it's picking up again. I think people are still hungry, and I think there are a lot of motivated people in the city that want to tell their stories. But I think in general, in U.S. filmmaking is becoming, harder. And like an example of it is, you compare Enora to Brutalis. Brutalis is a longer movie in a longer format, but the budget of the production was almost half of what Enora was, and Enora was on shot in 35 millimeter rather than the Vista, and in a more contained locations than Brutalis, but it costed more. And even though how much Sean Baker tried to do a guerrilla, and he was saying it, I think in one interview too, like in US is really becoming tough. They just in general, I don't think it's just LA, but I think LA because it's just become a mecca of Hollywood and they keep using LA as an example. But in my opinion, the whole country is basically struggling to keep the film industry and adding tariffs. I don't think that helps either. So yeah.
Well, that's something I really actually want to dive in with you, but I want to, I feel like you were starting to talk about getting into writing first, and
Yeah.
I had cut you off, but that was your original like
Yeah. After Memento, I think I because I thought I'll never be a filmmaker because I was like nobody, would let Iranian become filmmakers. So I was like maybe, but I had seen a lot of Iranians become being a screenplay writer. Hossein Amini is I think one of them who wrote screenplay for Drive and a bunch of another film I forgot in the 90s that got nominated. But yeah, so that was always like okay. And I had a friend back in Iowa who had graduated in from English majors. So I was like, okay, I have this concept. Would you help me to just making sure that I had learned the format by myself, but wanted to make sure the dialogue or the descriptions, are basically clean. So that was my first intention to just become a writer and selling screenplays. But then when I said I got laid off from my first engineering job, my buddy in LA, he kind of made a assignment for me. He was like, "Hey, every Friday just send me a short screenplay." I was like, "Okay, well, I'll try to do that." And I started keep doing it and keep doing it. And one of them, he was like, right away, he called me like, "Dude, you can just make this film yourself. You have made short films with your buddies, ask them to help you. You can just make this one is in one single location." He really pushed me for it. So that was when I experienced that directing, to be honest, and filmmaking and making. I mean, again, it's a short film, but it's saying that making a world, it doesn't make sense, but in your head makes sense because you did create that whole world in your head, and you're trying to explain it to every single member of the cast and crew, and trying to have that same vision. Some it was a very satisfying experience. And the second short film that I did was just a test for myself. I did a 48-hour film making festival just to see, hey, if I can do it properly. Second, if I can do it basically, I can enjoy that whole process from pre-production to post-production. And I absolutely did. And I was like, okay, I genuinely want to do this and nowadays, if I get ever like cold feet or, get, like you said, the industry lets you down. I try to think of that moment and then, remember that moment and how much it meant a lot to me. And so, yeah, so that's why I was like, okay, now I really want to become a filmmaker but at least it will be a big part of it, but like either it's pre-production or post-production, especially if I find a talented or dedicated person like yourself, you like you said, you saw the value in your film. You wanted to spend the time in your post-production to make the best out of the film, make the best version available for the people, for everyone to see it. So, and so that's what I value it. So that's, that's maybe want to be part of it.
Well, this is something I especially think that you will have insight on. And maybe in part I want to talk to you about this because you are now kind of taking on essentially like I mean you're wearing a lot of hats right now. I mean everybody is, but
Right.
you're helping to market this movie essentially. You're running a lot of the social media right now, and um, I think you probably have the most introspective um like um I think you and I think you might be the I think you've done similar introspection that I have done about the industry itself. And I guess some like context in terms of like what my journey was. Like I went to film school, I moved to LA. And for me, I don't know how you differentiate these two things, but I never wanted to work in film.
Hmm.
I never wanted to work in the film industry. I
Hmm.
wanted to make movies.
Right.
If I were working on films that, I felt were like the type of films that made me, fall in love with film,
Hmm.
that would have been different. But when I moved to LA, I worked on a reality TV show,
Hmm.
commercials, like, and I was like just,
Hmm.
kind of getting any gig I could,
I see.
and this was quite a while ago. Um, and this was after going to like, NYU film school, and it was like the getting ready, and like at that time the stories were like I remember hearing like Paul Thomas Anderson dropped out of NYU. I feel like the dropout story was like the not going to film school or dropping out of film school was like the like narrative to actually become a successful filmmaker. And so it was always like a tough battle for me. And I'm I guess I'm on one hand I'm like I want to ask, like, is it even possible to be a filmmaker? Has it been possible for the past 20
Hmm.
without having like $500,000? Um, that like, you're talking about Anora and Brutalist. Well, at least Anora, like Sean Baker's made like a ton of movies. Like, even Tangerine, the one that like I think
Hmm. Hmm.
he did like five, six movies before that, or I don't know, at least a few. Um, like this is a very different trajectory than what we saw like in the 90s when you had these directors who somehow raised, $500,000 or a few hundred grand. And I think it's because I think my theory, and I want to like hear what you think because I think this is going to be key to like how we approach trying to present this world to
Hmm.
present this movie to the world. Um,
Hmm.
I think in the 90s, like just people were wanted to invest in movies because they knew an independent movie would be played at a theater right next to a blockbuster movie. Like that there was no streaming uh,
Right.
environment. So there was like this like prestige. And so I think people I know the Coen brothers made Blood Simple by going to dentists. They just went to dentists like to get funding. I don't know like who like I just don't know how you make a movie in
Hmm.
today's world or even like could 20 years ago. Like what do you do if you can't raise $500,000? And I think now like who's gonna give okay, so maybe now movies are cheaper to make. So I'm thinking back to like 20 years ago when before I even went to film school and I didn't even really
Hmm.
want to go. I was like, I want to make a movie, but I just knew that that wasn't possible. Um, so I wrote, which I think is, kind of similar to what you were doing. Um, I guess what I'm trying to get at now is like movies do not cost what they used to. You can use your phone if you want. As Tangerine showed us, obviously he like souped it up, but you can
Right.
something cinematic for very little. Um, and something is happening in this streaming environment where I guess well there's this like sort of movement now. Have you read the things that I've been saying to the group on like Substack? Um,
No, I need to dig in more into Substack, but because my interaction with Substack was completely different because I had seen it's just funny like it kind of goes back to your point how just the whole thing in all aspect just is changing and shifting. Like my interaction was regarding via a couple of journalists that like 20 years ago they would be basically blogging, but now they're basically a major or hot journalists because of using Substacks and how they're basically reporting news and all that. But you're talking about how it's if, in getting involved in the filmmaking. Yeah, it's just I'm not. Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but it's just interesting. Like you were saying that yeah, streaming has shifted the whole equation. Like not just shifted, just changed the whole equation.
but streaming has changed this, since Netflix kind of started taking hold. But this is the first time that the only reason I bring up Substack is I think it's just happening the most prominently there right now.
Mm,
But if you scour Reddit, like filmmaking subs, you'll find these
yeah.
conversations pop up more and more, and they're getting more extreme. There are people like writing manifestos and talking about like a revolution, a new wave in filmmaking. Um, and I don't know how you feel. I feel like it's been a very dry period for the past
Mhm.
20 years for new voices to emerge. And the example like Sean Baker had to make like 9 movies before he could have like a $3 million budget for Honora. Is something is Are we at the beginning of a change, and have we made a movie that could potentially be part of um this new
Arrow.
era of filmmaking where people
Possibly.
now make
Yeah.
things these film it's almost like an like independent I don't know, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but just to like kind of overview of film festivals used to be the way to go, and now like if your movie costs less than $500,000 you are most likely not getting into Sundance. Like there's only two or three a year that cost less than a few hundred grand that get into Sundance every year. It's not really a path anymore. So is there like an is this happening now where like people are going to start making these sort of like micro budget films? Is there uh, is anyone prepared? Is the demand there? And is anyone prepared for like how to distribute them?
I think the demand for quality is there by the viewers all the time. I think the studios try to in my opinion try to hide it, and that's why they try to use the same function to produce movies. But even if you look at Neon and A24, the problem is most of them most of the movies that are released by them, they basically purchase the finished product rather than actually producing it, like kind of what you were saying. Opposite of what was happening in the 90s or early 2000s. Because uh, like you said, they don't want to take that risk, or they're being very cautious about it. They look at, okay, this film did super well in this major film festival. Let's bid on it, let's buy it, and then just do the distribution rather than actually producing. I'm not saying that they don't do it, but I think that most of their market is based on buying or purchasing the finished products, and which I'm not sure about the form the f film festival format requirements. If it I didn't know if really 500,000 thing is a requirement or if it's measured part of the I don't I'm not I'm kind of
There's no
yeah
budget requirements for these festivals. If you just look at like the if you look at the lineup of like
right.
Sundance's films last year, it's like y I guess I think this would have been, or maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. Whenever it was, it's like half of the movies are, like A Real Pain, Hitman,
Hmm.
streaming on Netflix. They're all like movies that are on like huge streaming platforms that have
Right.
huge names that have, at least a couple $1 million budgets. This is, this was arguably happening to an extent before, and that's why festivals like Slam Dance started to emerge to try to champion more independent voices. But it's simply, if you look at the films and you look at budgets, which I've done, um,
Right.
uh, because I am very interested in this and have been this last year. It's something that actually one of the actors who I'm excited to talk to him about this, like actually really brought it up to me. I think because Tim, who plays Alan, uh, he's an engineer, and we worked together, and I think he came on set and was kind of like, I'm gonna ask him about it, but I think he looked at this and was like, what do you do with this movie? Because he's very practical, and like,
Right.
and it's like, well, I tried to tell him like, well, you would submit to festivals, and the more I'm like talking it through to him, it's just like, I don't know what the viable path is. Like what happens now when, if you are 20 years old, or
Mm.
you just got out of film school. To me, it's not even like the demand for quality, which you pointed out. I think there is always a demand for new voices. And I don't know how new voices emerge in filmmaking. And I guess my question is, are we just waiting for like the right platform to help us like present it to people, so that, younger people, or like someone like myself maybe didn't have to wait 20 years to try to make this movie, um, can just kind of actually take a chance at doing something that, without having to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, because it's not really necessary in today's world with the way equipment is. I
Yeah.
mean, you know film history as I do, like, as soon as
Yeah.
like French New Wave, a lot of that came in because 16 millimeter cameras were suddenly more accessible. It's like when the hardware becomes more accessible, more
Hmm.
voices
Hmm.
emerge. So is that going to happen?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Or and I'll play devil's advocate, is YouTube just replacing that? Has it
Well, I don't know if YouTube anymore is replacing that because of all these new monetizing. Like it's again part of the going viral and these shorts and monetizing has, I feel like, shifted their platform as well. So I would say yes to what you were saying. If you need a new platform, you new some sort of a new, I don't know, equation or one, if it's a platform, if it's a festival or it's a event that, um, that could give the voice or make, or yeah, because um, even the films that I watch, like sometimes, when my friends were like, "Oh, I didn't know about this film," because, they hadn't heard about it, but all of a sudden 2 years later it comes on Netflix, then they watch it. But why, like you said, then I still that's kind of a issue. Like with I'm sure that filmmaker, because basically that put a few adds a few more years to that filmmaker basically getting his other projects done, because but and that's what has been happening on even for TV shows that's been canceled for years. Then now all of a sudden they're on Netflix. Now there's a big hype about it. Now, Netflix orders a movie or a new series off of it. So if there was if that platform that existed earlier that people had more, or at least a lot of people had access to it, perhaps that that voice already had existed and wouldn't have died, So yeah, but basically it does need a I think the new I think people do want to hear and watch the new voice, or even the other filmmakers are always curious about even those movies that you're saying that over a few $1 million, but over the budget. But now it's just crazy to me that they have to have a few if not A-listers or B-listers, and sometimes even the actors themselves becoming the producer of that, so they had to chipping some money in there, like. And I don't like back in the day, I feel like it wasn't like that. Like I just don't know why the major studios or major producers do not want to risk. I don't know if you want to say risk. It's a very, in my opinion, rich investment on talented people. You know what I mean? So it's uh, a new form of platform. Yeah, I would say yes. It definitely does need that. Like like we said, the industry has shifted. The accessibility has changed. So, but I think film festivals is still play a play a card, but I think they also have to change. Like you said, I think most of the movies and maybe Americans. I feel like Europeans, you still see they accept films all over the place, and how the reception is different. I think most of the major um, North America film festivals are, I think they just look at the names in the cast and crew, in my opinion. So, they can, I don't know, have a better uh brand, I guess. But the but is there a new some sort of a form of a festival that would help the indie filmmakers a new voice?
Well, I would first
I
like
don't know.
I would first kind of play devil's advocate a little bit when you say like, studios or production companies aren't really investing in
I
uh,
said the major ones. Like the major ones, I don't think, because back in the day, like Warner
no,
Brothers would buy a screenplay, then they put some money in it. But nowadays, most of them actually, either if they're investing or producing anything, is mostly is a franchise. Or if not, like I said, they buy the purchase. It's like a purchase finish part. Like it's kind of a going in engineering now.
what I was gonna say is not that there I agree with you, but I would say that that has always been the case. And my point is again, let's look at the 90s. Let's look at like all these emerging filmmakers that went to dentists or clerks, how Kevin Smith maxed out his credit cards. All those stories are like usually like this is not a studio funding. It's like
Well, yeah, but that's different
funding.
because
But then
they
but the last thing I want to say is that, but what did that lead to? It led to Sony Pictures Classics. It led to Paramount Vantage. It led to
right
all the major studios making
having a
like mini studios to try to
exactly.
imitate this. So,
Right.
um,
And now they're getting rid of those. That's the other
exactly.
part,
Yeah. But that's maybe why the demand for these new voices is coming back. But I also I guess I'm trying to point out that like these voices, I don't th know that they've ever been coming from studios. I
No, no, I don't think the studio, yeah, they can come from the studios. I don't know. Like, I think that the 48 hour or 60 hour or a week film festival formats are really helpful. I think is a testament for the filmmakers itself, but also I think it really shows because of what I went through, like, I think they were saying that the year that I entered, over 50 people had registered, but only 25 ended up being making it at the final. And then you watch all the movies, then you can, sift through, okay, these are the talented people. That's which made me myself as a film lover, like one of the filmmakers I connected with them, like, hey, if you want to and you need help for your next project, I'm willing to help you to produce it, which I did. Like, and I think that format really need to become more popular within the new voices, and that kind of a filmmaking. Then again, I don't. That's I'm not trying to make it a more of a, but it's been existing. They're kind of trying to make it as art as a some sort of a sport competition, but it's not. But I think, like I said, that kind of a form of a filmmaking festivals really shows who are the ones have the drives and the desire to for storytelling and filmmaking. But then again, after that, who is investing on them? Like, are there that's my point. Like, I think there needs to be a studio or some sort of a agency or recruiters or some sort of like, hey, look at these festivals, find these talents, give them a new platform, give them a new some sort of a budgets. That's I don't know if it's again, like you said, if it's a platform, it's a new form of an agency, or if it's all meshed up together. I which it needs to it still happen, because like you said, I think these talents gonna get buried, and after a couple of years, they're just gonna go in different route. And they think that they never had a shot, but in reality they did, and but it's just hard for years to stay, starving. So that's the reality of it. So
Well,
yeah.
let's
Um,
talk about like what we are trying to do right now with the big break, and why I'm like really happy that you are kind of doing this. It really clicked for me. I mean,
hmm,
you were in Germany for a couple of weeks, and so
mhm,
uh, I hadn't really we hadn't talked for a bit, and you came back, and like I kind of had this stuff for you to like um do like more marketing, uh, social media slash thinking about distribution type of work.
mhm,
And I don't think I think something clicked like when we had our meeting where I was like, Saham is a perfect person to be doing this.
hmm,
I think this is why is because you are thinking about this type of stuff. And I think you might, if someone's going to crack this, I think you are going to be the one who does it. And uh, uh, talking about like the Sony Pictures Classics, Paramount Vantage type of ordeal, I wonder. So what right now, what we are doing is we are trying to submit our movie to a a very new type of thing that is happening right now, which is a major
mhm, mhm,
streaming service, Tubi.
mhm,
It's now working with Kickstarter to give 10 grand to 10 movies and have a 3-month exclusivity deal. This is a major streaming service investing in, you know, uh, uh, if if not new voices, certainly very, very independent. I mean, the funding goal for these movies is $20,000. So this is a very, very different number than the
mhm,
type of stuff that we're used to when we say independent films. Is this the begin? Is this like, are all the streaming services going to do this now? Is there like,
mhm,
is this the 90s? Anora wins Best Picture. Oh, there's a demand for indie new stuff. Like, is that and now are all the big companies going to try to like um I don't know, like are we doing the right thing at the right time? Uh I don't know. I'm curious what you think about like this opportunity. You when you were in Germany, Stephen, Julie, and I like we had the conversation of like, do we do this or not? Uh,
mhm,
or do we like go the more traditional festival path? And we realized like we can time this and do this. just in time. And I think we all agreed. I feel back as you were in Germany, so you weren't able to be part of that conversation. But I hope that
That's
you
fine.
have like come around to like see that this was the right call. I hope, because I think this is the beginning of like something new. Uh, this is clearly like nothing like this has happened before that I am aware of.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know either.
and it seems like the smarter path to take right now than trying to go down the festival route. I could point to many examples of like films that didn't get into big festivals and then found their way to cult status. That's
Right,
actually a lot of the stories of like I think
right.
the interesting movies of the past decade or so. But yeah, I'm curious like if you think this is something that like might actually be the beginning of positive change for bringing out new voices.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I feel like if we hadn't started doing this, trying to get into this, we would have definitely missed a good opportunity. It's definitely worth um, doing, and even if it's for a learning experience, to be honest. And I that I mean that is a good point that most likely other studios or streaming services try to adopt that, and because I think after he just said that, Nora realized Kodak kind of ran not a like a campaign like this, but the fact that basically you had to do a pitch, not necessarily a Kickstarter campaign and all that. Then after that, for the short film actually, so they would supply like a film reel for that. Which now I see that at this big, much larger scope, to me, in my opinion. So back to your question, yeah, I think that probably the, make other studios to do similar things like that. Like I said, because I think studios basically are. I mean, you would be. Sorry to say though, you must be very shallow-minded that you think that there is no demand for a new voice, for a fresh voice, for a fresh storytelling, for fresh takes and all that. But I understand that it's probably like the major studios trying to, protect their investment. But like I said, but there needs to be a new way to find new talents and finding those. And I think, yeah, this is like what Kickstarter and Tubi is doing. I think
I don't think
that's the.
sorry, I don't
No,
know.
no, go ahead. Yeah,
I
you
just
don't think what?
I don't feel like it like I feel like I agree with you that you have to be shallow-minded, but I feel like we can't say that because it's been 20 years and like what real efforts have been put
Right.
into this. I think it's only happening now because these huge IPs are like the Marvels maybe not, the Marvel movies aren't doing quite as well as they used to do. And it's like they're realizing maybe there's a little bit of like may
I'm.
I don't know, but I just um I don't know if shallow-minded is the right word because while I agree with you, I don't think people who have a I think people like you and I who I would call cinephiles
Mhm,
are I think there's a lot of us out there, but I think
mhm,
a lot of the people who are like working in this industry, since the film industry has now essentially become the tech industry,
mhm.
and I've worked in tech, and I think a lot of the viewpoint is I don't think people see that there is a demand for new voices or think it's a financially important demand because they're not looking at it from like an art perspective. And when they hear the word art, it's a very like cringy word for them in terms of like investment, which is very interesting to me because art is a very valuable thing.
Right.
I've never understood this. But even from an entertainment perspective, I don't think they think about voices, I guess is maybe what I'm trying to say. They think about IPs, just like new IPs, I guess is
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
which kind of makes me think they're shallow, but the thing is, uh, in my opinion,
Yeah.
at least past 3 years, I would say the indie film industry has been really thriving, in my opinion. Like the most of the great films that have been selected by critics or fans. If you look at it, most of them are indie films, or not necessarily just saying artsy fartsy films, but it's just independent filmmaking. And I think that's why now has basically made them to and especially when they see a success like nobody I don't think before I don't think especially these major studios expected after Parasite winning the Best Picture, Neon becoming more successful, especially with the indie film. Again, like I said, like A24, half of the times they probably buy finished product, but they're still investing in new voices, new even I know this one is a little bit off topic, but it's still even they're willing to satisfy their filmmakers to do a limited, like a 35 millimeter release. So that's the extent that they're willing these smaller studios go and becoming more and more, successful to acquiring these films. So besides just producing it, so that's why, in my opinion, they made them to look maybe yeah, but they thought, oh, the numbers are not matching anymore, and because all these voices in my opinion, they probably looking at them. It just belongs to streaming services. They didn't think, oh, it can have a theatrical and a festival success. And now it's both of them in the past few years have been happening in both aspects. And they're I think that's why perhaps they're trying to find a new way to invest in those new voices. So, but yeah, I just
Well,
there,
I want to
I think there is a market. I think that I mean you cannot just blindly. It's just it would be sad just blindly to say, or if that's the person's mentality, like, oh, there's no market for the new voices. It's just a
want to
sad
clarify.
thought.
I want to clarify the short-mindedness. So this is my genuine fear. I am 90% confident
Hmm.
that we are at the beginning of
Right.
a new revolution or a new era in film,
Hmm.
or just a new wave, let's call it.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, the 10% fear that I have
Hmm.
is what I would think what we are like kind of referring to as shallow-minded people, what their perspective is. And I
Yeah.
think it's one word that sums it up, and it's
Hmm.
just YouTube. There are new voices emerging. They're, they're just emerging in a different way. And there is a 10% of fear I have that
Mm.
maybe that is the medium, short form, TikTok, YouTube. Maybe this is what this is how people want to, this is the medium that works for new voices. It's a small fear I have, but that's how I think someone who would want to, like
Mm.
try to argue against us that this market is about to come. I think that's the argument. I think. I hope it's not true, and it sounds
Yeah. I hope
silly,
so.
but I don't know. I am also kind of baffled by it.
Mm.
And I'm curious if the irony is like Tubi is doing this. Tubi is a cinephile's nightmare in the fact that there's no ad-free tier.
Right.
Like in that regard, it's like imagine watching Raging Bull and seeing it, or
Yeah.
as much as I am like applaud them for this and for them
Right.
campaigning, it's an interesting double-edged sword. On the other hand, going to a festival, Um, I don't think those movies, most of them ever see the light of day unless they are, like already have streaming deals or already have A-list actors or
Mm.
have.
Hmm.
So I think this is the right direction. I think. Um, I don't know. I am excited though. And I'm excited that you have like really owned this, like the sort of like additional hat to wear. Because I think if we handle this well, we might be able to help be a part of more and more people saying like, look, there are people doing interesting things. Um, a $20,000 goal. I don't know which is, I should say that that's what this whole program is that Tubi gives you $10,000, but you have to earn 10 more from Kickstarter. So, I think they are trying to gear toward films that are like in post-production, but I get the sense that there's an openness to like this is the entire budget of the movie. Um, like just the simple fact that a major streaming service is saying $20,000 is a is an acceptable budget for a movie to put on our service is like that's a whole new level of independent
Hmm.
filmmaking that we're talking about.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's access to millions of people.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good thing about Tubi. Like, I mean, I know, yeah, their format is having running ads, but at least, I think they make it accessible to a lot of people, even if, like you said, at least I think that even if someone watches a movie with ads on, or probably it still would make him interested about that film, later on. Like, like you said, maybe Raging Bull, watching Raging Bull, at least pieces of it, they were like, oh, okay, that's the film that try to learn more about it. And, like how I fell into a rabbit hole that could cause them to too. So at least it makes them or gives them that opportunity to have, which is good. Like I myself, one of my favorite shows, TV shows was Mr. Robot, and for a while it wasn't available anywhere. I mean, I own the physical copy, but at least wanted sometimes, just put it on for on TV, and Tubi had it, and it's just for a quick access. It's great. Like, but like I said, like not a lot of people, I think, were aware of it, of that show, and I think Tubi added more basically awareness for that too. So I think, yeah. So and this campaign that they're running, it's it, it's going to be beneficial to a lot of filmmakers and new voices, as we keep talking about it. So,
I mean,
and I hope to see more of it, to be honest, like you said.
what I'm interested to see is, and I just to like second that, like Tubi right now is without any comparison the best library of stream.
Right, right,
I
right.
mean, like the you and I are both have these like experiences of like access. You move it
Hmm.
to Santa Monica. For me, when AFI released that top 100, the local library had a big like section where they had like all the, like they had like
Hmm.
that collection there. So I had access to this stuff. Luckily, uh, Netflix, when they were shipping DVDs,
Right.
was like right around the time where like Criterion became available, and you could get those
Hmm.
DVDs through, so it's all about access. And
Hmm.
if you can't afford, I know that Criterion has a streaming service now, but like
Hmm.
Criterion DVDs are very expensive.
Hmm.
Seeing I mean, Tubi has like this enormous like foreign classic library.
Right,
And they have
right.
all these great movies on there. And now they're also going to champion
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
I
I
agree.
wonder if those two things will come together. It's going to be very hard to like they're doing classics, they're doing
Right.
blockbusters, like and now indies as well.
Hmm.
Is it all going to
Hmm.
exist on the same platform? That feels like a tall task.
Yeah, they there we go. Like you know, like we were talking about, like you, you want someone to take a new route, new take, and I think they're taking that a step. So yeah, it makes you, at least someone like me, at least makes me more, excited and motivated. So uh,
And that's why
yeah.
yeah, that's I don't want to like we talked a lot about this and maybe to like bring it back to like I think you and I were just kind of starting this and I'm excited to get into this with you, but do you have any initial thoughts on like what's our strategy to like embrace this clearly having a good campaign, which we're gearing up for, is going to be crucial. But I'm not on a lot of social media. I get the sense that you are not a big social media person based on previous conversations. So
No, I try to be, because how the, like, even the actors now saying, like, I try to be active on Instagram, so
mhm.
that's the metric nowadays. Even whole, the film industry in US really looks at, so at least I try to be active on Instagram. Reddit is, I know for it just Reddit is a good place to learn about a lot of things, to be honest. So that's the other place. Those are the two places that I stay, to be honest. But other platforms, yeah, I have a stop, using them, or being active on them. So these two, personally, I'm active, but at least I do observe what's happening on those other platforms. And I'm also in a movie club that a lot of their filming people in that movie club, some of them are movie makers as well, but active on the other social media. So I get the feedback as well. So at least I try to be. I don't want. Sadly, you have to do multitasking. You have to be aware of all what's happening. What's basically the new measurements, or new units of measurements in this industry. This industry keeps evolving, so you have to be on top of it all the time. So that's at least I try to do. Not maybe not being active, but try to keep myself aware of it.
Yeah, and maybe I didn't articulate myself very well because I'm not on social media, so I'm not aware of like what your presence is. But I get the sense that you really appreciate like deep, meaningful conversations. And
Yeah.
look, our movie is about a character who has a social media addiction. And so I'm speaking of more in those terms. To me, Reddit is like journalism democratized.
Right.
So I don't. That's a different type of social media.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm more saying it from like a aerial like
Right.
perspective. Uh, but I'm really glad that you are familiar with this because this is going to be interesting to navigate. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess yeah. I mean, I guess have you like with this like new is this something that you're just kind of are we figuring this out as we go along or have you like I know you've only taken on this role very recently now that we've talked about this whole like potential way for us to bring our movie to the world um does this affect like how you approach this like new hat you're wearing of I guess like post-production coordinator, which is really just including like marketing, and you're doing a lot right now. And we're
Um.
and we're making this YouTube video series as part of this, you know?
Right. I don't have. Yeah. I think whatever basically we have planned, the strategies. I haven't thought anything more specific. I think we just Whatever I have witnessed myself, I try to basically implement like these one-on-ones I mentioned. Um, but no, I personally didn't have a specific strategy, but the group meeting that we had a couple days ago, it seems like we have a good notions, and so I think we just if we follow our instincts and let the film also try to uh, get the film done its core voice, and we stick to that, and we present that to, and I think it would be successful. So um, yeah, I really do think I always basically that's my mentality to stay with the core value of your project and what you're trying to present, and I think to be more truthful about it so that that can resonate better with the audience, so that kind of speaks better to the audience as well. So the yeah, I that's my thought. I don't know
Maybe,
if I answered
yeah.
your question.
Well, I think I'm springing this on you like 2 days after we signed this to you. But I guess what I'm trying to, and I'll wrap this whole thing up kind of with saying, the reason that I think you're the right person for this, and I think you are going to have, I can already see it. You are the one who came up with, at least what led to the idea of this very interview right now. So if anybody is watching this, it's because we gave you the task to help us think through like how do we go about doing this? And I think most people would start to think like kind of more gimmicky. And I don't really, I'm very uncomfortable like kind of presenting myself or trying to sell myself. But when you said like just have like a conversation like podcast style, I was like, you know what, that's the one thing that I completely feel comfortable doing. So I think
So,
you already have shown that you're going to offer something truly unique to this. And because you are so philosophical about this whole conversation that we've had about like what might be changing in this landscape, um, really makes me think that you're going to have a breakthrough at some point, I think.
I hope so. But kind of again going back to your project,
Yes.
especially that we were talking about this whole process. How did you end up doing the casting? Did you also use Mandy, or what were you
No.
looking at?
That is a good question. Uh, I very much made this movie with like okay, so um I might require a little bit of like context here is that I did try to
Hmm,
make a movie a couple years ago and it was a little bit more complex.
hmm,
Still like I have my own equipment that I've had for 10 years and so I know inside out. I've done a lot of like marketing videos with it. I've done a lot of filming with it where I've truly kind of learned to become like a one man show where
hmm,
I can use this camera, record sound, set up lights really quickly. Um, and so I've been doing that for 10 years and that's how I knew that I could like kind of just apply that to a feature um,
hmm.
and make it have a nice aesthetic. Like I have nice lenses and the equipment I have is good that I've acquired over the decade. It's just not the type of equipment you would think could be done with like a feature could be made with basically one actively working crew member with equipment, because we only had two crew members and
Hmm.
my wife and my brother-in-law, and and,
Exactly.
and Tanya was really she was production design and production manager, so she was always getting meals and like she was doing a lot where really Rupak was kind of the only one to help me out with equipment, with setting up lights, with getting everyone mic'd up, and it's just it's the type of thing that where you'd really expect a lot more people involved and people with knowledge in film. But I got very lucky that I just had like a really, really great team of people. So to get to your question, how is this cast? Um, I wrote this specifically with people in mind.
Hmm.
Um, so uh, let me think of like the best way to say this because it didn't turn out the way that I thought it would, but I did leave, again with that like mentality of like nothing is going to stop me from making this. And then a lot of this came from that movie that kind of fell apart a year earlier because I realized there were just some elements that were not I was not prepared to like um have like a backup or continue forward. It was just a little too complex, a few too many locations,
Hmm.
characters, too many moving parts that I just couldn't keep track of, and then ensure that it was going to get made with the resources that I had. Um, but with this movie, it was supposed to be three actors in a house. I wrote the three parts for three specific people. Two of them ended up not being able to act in it, personal reasons. Um, they're like very, very close friends, and they just simply, one had health issues, and one, nobody got paid for this. Everyone is getting equity, and that is a part that really I hate that is the way that we have to do this. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping that like this, that's another thing that we could dig deeper into, like how that previous conversation, but uh, knowing all of this, I assumed it was just going to be friends. So I
Hmm.
wrote this for three friends, and my wife and my brother-in-law, and my whole crew. Like it was something where it was okay if I didn't have to feel like I was asking people to work for equity because it was just a bunch of us getting together and doing this. But I mean, everyone involved is my friend. They're just not, a couple of the people are not the people I originally intended to be in it. So the role of Charlie, uh, I, the my friend who I wrote it for wasn't able to be in it, and so I had to start thinking about like uh, who to get. And at no point in this process have I ever been thinking like auditioning.
Hmm.
So Mandy.com didn't. I'll get to that in a minute because that didn't even cross my mind.
Hmm.
So well, let me start with Chris because he's the one person who did actually end up being in the movie who I wrote the role for. And I hope that this movie presents Chris to the world and because he is just I think so effusive in this movie and charming. And he's a little bit of a local celebrity. He does like open mics like three times a week. When we were filming in Bethlehem at the Funhouse, um, uh, we couldn't we couldn't like film for more than a few minutes without somebody coming up to Chris and like saying hi. Uh, Chris and I go way back, but I really bonded with him when I was in grad school at Lehigh in Bethlehem. He was
Hmm.
working on campus, and I remember like the moment I was like, this guy needs to like uh, there is something about him that like I feel like the world needs to see, and the filmmaker in me started back then. I think I wanted to make a documentary about him. Chris and I have been talking about working together for a very long time. But the thing that made me realize it was um, he was working at the coffee shop on campus, and I would be there a lot, and I would just come like, hang out with him.
Hmm.
And I drink a lot of coffee. I was sitting there, maybe writing or reading. I was in grad school for English, and everyone that came in, staff, college students, like the faculty, like just everyone knew Chris. And Chris, like, it wasn't the conversations he was having were not like surface level. He was like,
Hmm.
he knew who was on vacation and what they were doing last week. And it was just like absolutely amazing to me that like how um it was a type of socializing that I had never seen before. And I found I was just like really it struck like a chord with me. It was a very beautiful thing to witness. And I knew I wanted to work with Chris. And so I'm so glad that he uh was we finally got to work together. And for if this does turn into a career, I I have I'm pretty deep into the next script, and I feel like I'm writing Chris like the role of a lifetime. I'm really proud of that, and so I hope we get to keep working together. Um, the role of uh, Travis, I wrote for another friend. It's like semi, not really based on him, but it was written for him. So like, if you read my script, you're going to see it wasn't written to show anyone because I kind of wrote it for these people.
Mm,
And he wasn't able to be in it either. Uh, and that was just really like he wasn't able to take like a week off of work. We couldn't find like a good scheduling. So for him and Charlie, Travis and Charlie, I had to find two people. So I went basically just into like who do I know who acts? Um, and Trevor, who ended up playing Travis, acted in a VR film. Or so I worked in VR for a little while in New York, like like 5, 6, 7 years from now. So when we were filming, yeah, it'd been like 4 or 5 years ago. And like I had access to VR equipment, and like the filmmaker me, I didn't. I was never a big I was like, I never really thought VR was going to take off or like part of that. I just kind of fell
mm.
into that work. But I had access to 360 cameras, so I was like, I'm going to take one home this weekend and just make a short film. So I wrote like a little script. It was terrible, but I needed two actors, and uh, Trevor was one of them. That I basically it's a mutual friend um,
Mm.
who also introduced me to Joe Bertolazzi's music, who's the composer. And so I don't know, Trevor and I became friends, and he was great. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I can convince him to do it. Because he's in New York, and a lot of the people I was writing this for, it was just everyone was here, and it would have been a much simpler film. But everything kind of just worked itself out in this weird way. And so Trevor agreed to come on board, even though it took some convincing because he used to want to be an actor, and he has had acting experience, but he gave it up. And I think we actually kind of bonded in the fact that like I had given up on filmmaking, and I think he also had that fear of like I don't want to like flirt with this like dream of mine because I don't want to feel that like failure again.
He's so good.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the part like that I think was one of the most beautiful, and I think everyone can attest to this who was on set. Um,
Mm,
First of all, like Trevor was just like such a good person to have in terms of like
mm,
building camaraderie. He's very vulnerable and encouraged us to have like deep group conversations where he would just
mm.
be like, at the end of the set, he was just like, everyone tell us you're like what this meant to you, what this experience.
Right.
And what he said was that this movie reignited his passion for acting, that he now like
It's
wants
great.
to act again. I was like that. I was like that is exactly what just happened to me with filmmaking, and I don't know, it was so wonderful. And then for Charlie, Luke acted in my thesis film that I made at NYU when I was 20
Mm.
years old, so we're 15 years ago. I just looked him up out of the blue. I had seen him in a few things over the years. He's been in like some college humor videos. He's in stuff, and I remember like watching things on TV where he would have like small roles. I was like, hey, that's the guy who was like in my movie. It was a terrible movie that I never really even finished, but Luke was fantastic. And for that, I did have a very like robust audition process. Um, so I had already like kind of known that there was something special about Luke. Um, and he's in Atlanta and he's still acting, but he was working as like uh what's it called? Like a fitness
Hmm.
um or
Instructor or
like a
the workout thing,
trainer,
the
trainer.
videos?
Luke
Trainer.
Luke is insanely buff, and we spent a lot of time trying to hide that because I was like, Charlie is not going to be like that buff. So that's why he's always wearing like baggy clothes.
Right, that makes sense.
But yeah, that also took a lot of convincing, because he's in Atlanta. And so he's the one, I guess you could say, like professional actor in this movie. Um, and I really, it was just, we had a bunch of conversations and he agreed to do it. And a lot of our very small budget went to like bringing him out here. And, uh, luckily we got to house all the actors in the Airbnb where we shot the film. And I think that was like one of the key things that made this work is that they all really bonded.
Hmm.
Um, and then, sorry, this is nobody's really asked me this, so I'm glad that I get to tell this. The last person is Tim, and Tim is he worked with me at Google. He's been working at Google for a very long time, and we worked in VR together. And then he started working in AI. And so I wrote this script and I was like, I should ask Tim how to do
Hmm.
this character. I didn't know Alan was going to be a human, like a human actor. I wasn't
Right.
sure. I really wasn't sure how to portray Alan.
Mm.
So I just wanted to talk to Tim and be like how do I make this work? Um,
Hmm.
and he pretty quickly, I think, was like the best thing to do is to just get someone on a video call. And we kind of, this was like over many conversations. Tim is like, he's just such, again, like I just had the best people working together. He was so supportive, like really, really wanted the best for this. He was always very, very supportive of the work I did, even though it was like a blip in my life. Like he's just always been very supportive of me. And I think even when I was doing like marketing videos for Google, like I could tell that he I think like saw something that I think takes a special eye. Um, that allowed us to like connect in this way. And basically what happened is he convinced me that I like kind of it should be just an actor. And then I was like, well, who's the perfect actor for this? It's going to be you. Like you understand AI, you're working in AI, like you're going to bring a level of this that I can't even write. He did. He nailed it. And there are so many moments I can tell you that like words that like weren't like uh I can't remember right now. Bayesian reasoning, and there are like AI terms that I had no clue about. And he's like, "Oh, well, this is what he would say." So like Tim totally brought the character to life. And the only other thing I'll say about Tim is, I think he's quite camera shy, and we talked about this, and I think part of what made his performance so powerful is like he was in like a dark room by himself like upstairs away from everyone for this like for a lot of the shoot because he's on this video call and so he's if anyone's watching this like look at like our behind the scenes photo of Tim's setup because he's just like strapped to this he like couldn't move um and we had
What?
to communicate with him was so difficult. We had to tell him his eye lines. He couldn't see what was happening. So
Right,
it's
right,
just
right.
like he's acting like in
Hmm.
an abyss. Um, so yeah, I know that's a lot, but it's everyone has their own really fascinating story, and it just like it all just came together beautifully.
It's just crazy to me how he also delivered the emotional parts,
I
Tim. Like,
know.
it's just you know, since I was a small part of the editing, but the footage I watched, like, yeah, I was really shocked at how much like he was able to bring not just the technical aspect of his performance, but all the emotional part. And what I like about Luke also, like, it's crazy that how I was sometimes trying to mix and match shots and how consistent he is. Like that's kind of sometimes a lot of times actually are rare an actor being able to do take after take to bring even timing, like how he would time, how deliver his line, like literally, which would help you to, use different sounds if you wanted, or if you're trying to do a montage thing, like how his performance was consistent within different takes. That was cool. And
I have to like just like add too about Luke. This movie could never have been what it was without him because um he not only like gave it his all, you're talking about like
mm,
Tim's emotional performances. I mean, you have to keep in mind like I am basically the DP, the gaffer, the
yeah,
I'm doing so much. Like I want to be the type of director that just gets to work with actors and
right.
um while I did have that opportunity, and we did get to rehearse a lot, which was nice, but a lot of it was over Zoom. Uh,
Mm.
um, Luke not only like gave it his all, but he really was like I don't I think Tim would agree with me that like Luke's performance and like rehearsing anytime there was free time and like coaching everyone. Like he was
Oh,
basically like
that's
an
great.
acting coach on set for everyone else.
Mm,
He was
mm.
he was like a director's dream for like this. Um,
Right.
and I think like yeah, I think Luke not only delivered an amazing performance, I think he is largely responsible for
Mm.
the really
Others.
powerful performances of everyone else in this movie.
Mm.
I think everyone will agree to that.
That's
Uh,
great.
yeah, he's going places, and I don't know. It was just a great group that I hope I get to work with all of them again. There was a special bond there on set. And what's really exciting now is that I feel like production and post-production are starting to merge. And I think
Mm.
you, Julia, and Steven really embody a lot of that like special quality that we figured out on set. And now these worlds are coming together and we finally have our like team. And just to like get to what you're saying about Mandy, I remember Mandy.com, like when I was out in LA, I didn't even know like what people did. And I'm so glad that I asked my brother because I posted on Reddit, and the responses I got were not great. Um, thank God that I posted it on Mandy because I got to meet with like 40 plus editors who were all like willing to work on this. Like I didn't know like people would even like again, like you have to remember, like I thought I was gonna edit it. I didn't think I was
Right.
gonna be like asking people to work for like almost a year for equity. And I feel terrible about it, but there were so many people who like not only were interested in doing this, they really connected with this movie, and it gave me with my cut of the movie, which I don't even think was like will do anything near justice to what you guys are gonna do with it. Um, but it really gave me the validation that I needed to be like, I am going to see this through. Um, so that was the beginning of that. And it was a very long, arduous process where I had to like make a lot of difficult decisions and I met with a lot of people. And it took a long time for me to get to like it's Steve, Julia, Saham are really like the core post production team. And luckily, my brother is there to advise us. But yeah, it's it's been a long journey, and you came a little bit late into the journey, so you haven't even seen like that. But like I hope you realize how much you've brought like into this. You came at a time where I think everybody needed you, your voice. Um,
I don't know about that, but I think a lot of people, yeah, a lot of you already done the lifting, so I'm just here to assist you guys. But yeah, I'm just like I said, I'm glad that being part of the team and helping you guys out.
Well, I think that humility that you have with the fact that you are also like a hard worker and willing to kind of take on any task. Everybody sees it, and it's been truly like, it's really helped the team. Which is a good
Thank
transition
you.
to, I think, I've done this for everyone where I've posed people to ask questions. And so I think there are a couple of questions for you. We'll wrap up with these, unless there anything else you wanted to.
No.
So Tanya says, what classic movie does The Big Break remind you of?
Big break?
This is something I don't even know how to answer this.
Oh man. Hmm. Well, the thing is, I automatically always go. It has nothing to do with it, but because established by him, the single location was I always go to Hitchcock. So I just that was he goes to. He always preferred to do it. That's why he was able to do a lot of films because that was his preference. He like wrote he literally if he could he wanted to do the whole movie as a oneer. So. But whenever I notice a single location film, I automatically think of Hitchcock, but I'm not necessarily a specific film of his, but yeah, classic film. So so yeah, that's the director I would think, but I don't know if I would have a specific film to be honest. So um yeah, yeah, that would be.
I don't, yeah, I'm trying to think how I would even answer this. I'm like, I don't, I feel without getting like too deep into the weeds about this, like maybe part of what hopefully is happening right now is that I think when I made this movie, I think I thought it was gonna be like it was gonna feel like I very stylized. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe like sort of like Jim Jarmusch or something. Not
Hmm.
that's like classic, but like I don't even he you could go back further and find elements of that earlier on. Um, or even just like if you really want to go classic, like Robert Bresson, like just working with non-actors, like that's effectively worked. But
Right.
the style like is totally off. I think the really thing that was interesting that happened because of these performances was that I realized that this was not supposed to be stylized uh, in the sense that I thought it might feel,
Hmm.
because the performances are so organic that I think it's I really respect people like Sean Baker and the Safdie brothers who are kind of doing this like new type of realism, and I really struggle to find it in classic cinema, and it makes me excited that I feel like there is like a new type um of filmmaking happening right now, and I hope that we're a part of it. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
what Steven asks, what film or films help push you to become a cinephile?
I
And
guess I answered that. So
what's that?
I think I answered that. So
Yeah, you did, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
the Scorsese
you
and
said what did it for you personally?
huh?
He, if I analyze this question, you were talking about like um if it maybe I'm misunderstanding, but like I think what Raging Bull was for you, I had a similar experience like Taxi Driver, but this is a very
Right.
like personal experience that I don't know that I would say what film or films help push you to become a cinephile. If I were to, I don't know that I would recommend the movies that affected me to somebody who I was encouraging to fall in love with film. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, I think it does, but yeah, well for me, no, I would but yeah, besides those two films that maybe cinephile um yeah, I think like I said when we moved to US was that was when my brother and I started watching a lot of movies, but and that non-linear storytelling definitely made me, be- I think, wanting more and becoming more, I guess, cinephile. But yeah, Pulp Fiction, Seven, Fight Club, a lot of 90s movies, I guess, back there. Usual Suspects, Heat, those, I guess, made me become a cinephile, like be wanting to watch more movies. And at the time, especially, um, kind of like you, my brother loved Taxi Driver, so he started getting all the Robert De Niro movies. That's how I got into Raging Bull. So then I wanted to become learning more about. Then at that time, then instead of going in the phases of actors, then that was me becoming going into the rabbit hole of like directors. Like after, like all of a sudden I would watch a week of David Lynch, or then the or I don't know, Kubrick, or stuff like that. So like trying to find the filmmakers, but yeah, I think those were the core of the movies. Like I said, and especially when I was a kid, RoboCop, and Dumb and Dumber, Terminator 2, and some of the Bruce Lee movies definitely had a big impact on me. But yeah, so I think
My
that those were the movies.
my one little anecdote about Taxi Driver is one of the few films that um, affected me like later in life. Uh, and the profound experience I had with it was not the first time I watched it. It was when I was living in LA and I felt a profound loneliness. And I was like,
Hmm.
this movie captures loneliness
Uh,
in a way that I have never seen before when I was living that like in my 20s.
yeah,
So
that was my
that's
brother's feeling too.
yeah. But I had seen it when I was younger and it didn't have that effect on me. So but I also just to expand that is I had recommended to Steven like to watch Eraserhead because I was like, well, we need to really talk about sound design for this movie. I'm not a huge fan of Eraserhead, but I would say like to become a cinephile, like here's a good example of how like it's a great movie if you want to understand sound design. Um, so I there is an element for me where I would not necessarily recommend like my favorite movies. But the one thing you said that I think I would agree with is if you find a voice you like, watch everything they've done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At least most of it, if you can,
As much
some 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 directors like Sidney Lumet has a lot of films, but he doesn't get praised. But he has a lot of great films in his, filmography, and people should definitely check him out as well. So, like you said, if you like a voice, definitely check out their other work.
yeah. I think that is like that's how you become a cinephile. You watch movies for auteur. Like
Right, right, right.
okay, so and what are your top three underrated films that should get more appreciation but don't?
I don't know. That's so tough.
Yeah.
Underrated there. I feel like there are so many of them. I don't know. I feel like I need to look at my own movie look collections. I know some of them, but I don't know if they count as like, I don't know, classic, or it's yeah, like I think like a lot of Criterion movies, like maybe a lot of people, I most of them, a lot of them are underrated, to be honest. I feel like especially in I just think especially in America, I think in Europe it's not an issue, to be honest. But I think in US, people should get more comfortable watching foreign films, and they stop whining about subtitles, because like if you go in Europe, it's such a normal thing. A lot of their theaters show movies from different languages, from different countries. Their festivals are like that, and you just learn a lot more about not just the storytelling, but also you learn about cultures, about like different actings, different choices. It's so I don't know. I think foreign films are underrated. So yeah, watch more foreign films.
Yeah. Uh, I think I'm just also answering all your questions because I just enjoyed talking to you.
Good. Thank you.
This is why you're part of this team. This is probably going to be the longest
We'll do a two-part, like we cut it in half.
No, no,
It's,
let it
yeah,
let
it's okay. It's okay.
let if anybody's actually watching this to this point, then we've done something right. But you and I have bonded on Taste of Cherry, and I wanted
Right.
to point something out as like just because I brought up Taxi Driver, which is like that's a movie I saw at the right time where it like connected with me in that moment.
Mhm.
Taste of Cherry is the exact opposite in the sense that like when I saw that maybe when I was like 17 or 18, I don't think I'd ever seen
Mm.
anything
Wow.
quite so um like I didn't
Different.
different. Yeah, like I mean at its surface it's just kind of like a guy driving around and not like
Right.
there's more to it, but I can't think of a movie that has like uh it's funny. I was talking to Tanya about this earlier today, but just like just basically the what movies can do, and
Right.
one of the most powerful things they can do is uh, they can get their like hooks or claws into your brain, and like
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
live there your whole life. And Taste of Cherry is one of these movies that just like I think about it more than almost any other movie. And it's just so weird. It's the type of movie that like it's taken me 20 years. Like or every year that passes, I appreciate it more just because I think it just comes up. I don't think about Taxi Driver much. I just watched it at the right time. Taste of
Hmm.
Cherry, just like every once in a while I think about it and like I can't believe like I saw that 20 years ago and I still am thinking about aspects of it. So I don't know if that's I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just showing like
Left a good mark. Yeah, it's underrated. You should watch it. Yeah.
I or maybe what I'm trying to say is like sometimes you don't know what films are underrated because
Yeah. Yeah.
some of the best movies live in your brain for 10 years.
Right.
And then 10 years from now, you know, you realize which ones are the best because they're the ones that have like stuck to your mind. Um, okay, this is the last question from Julia. What elements of a film do you think makes it an instant hit or classic?
I don't think of a movie in those terms. I think it's a wrong mentality to have. Just think an element of a movie can, because like I said, part of me goes into storytelling. Like I genuinely want to become a filmmaker because I feel like there's stories that they need to be told, and I personally enjoy every aspect and every stage from from the very beginning of pre-production up to the end of the post-production. So, and if whenever you're in those stages, you have to focus on every aspect and just try to do the best and make the best out of that. Like, I don't think in those terms, like, I don't like watch a movie or when I'm trying to make a movie, like, oh, if I make this element right, then I have the best. But one thing I think a lot of new filmmakers or college students try to underestimate is the sound. Even the short films that I've edited to try to help people is that try to get a good shot all the time, but they forget about getting a lot of coverage and a lot of getting recording sounds properly. And I think sound is a very critical element that is maybe not mentioned in process of filmmaking that a lot of cinephiles or filmmakers, first time filmmakers, maybe they don't pay too much attention to it or to try to underestimate it. But to make it a hit or like a box office hit, I don't want to become a filmmaker. I think, oh, I want to make a story or be part of a movie that it's gonna be a classic right away, or like you have to service the like I said, I in every aspect or any role that I've had in my uh, filmmaking, if you want to call it filmmaking career, that I always try to service the story, like try to understand the filmmaker or the storyteller what he or she wants to achieve and service their story. And sometimes, that person, and sometimes, you want to use your experience and knowledge to help that person. And if that person doesn't take it, you shouldn't take it personal. You should, otherwise you would actually you would feel hurt all the time. But, um, but that, yeah, I don't think, yeah, that it's the youngest, I guess, form of art, filmmaking, and it's a mesh of science, technology, but also of art. So you cannot just be focused on art, but you cannot also be just focused on the technical aspect of it. So you have to really try to find a balance that you try to all the technical aspects and elements to get it right, but at the same time to the reason that a lot of, especially nowadays, people say that AI cannot write a screenplay because they don't have feelings, so and sometimes instincts, like even sometimes I listen to Roger Deakins, and because a lot of things that they do on day is based on the feelings and instincts that they get on set and what they and then they make that decisions, again helping the storytelling. So that's my mentality. Like that's you have to use both as your tools to help the story to make it better. It's not it's not I don't see it as a cheat sheet of like, oh, we have to check this, we have to if you check these two, it's going to be a box office hit and it's going to be a classic. I don't see it that way. I just but if it comes from the story, if it comes from a very good place with good intentions, with logics, with not necessarily everything has to be logical, but what I mean, like a good heart, and the story has a good heart and a good soul, and you try to make it the best out of it. That I think that's the thing. So I would say, I guess the story first matters, then when we get to production and making sure you're not underestimating the sound, especially the first timers. And post production, kind of be like yourself. Be open, basically, uh, to make changes, to make necessary changes, to make, being open to make when you see the potential, feel that potential, then don't just let it go. Just basically be willing to make the best out of it. And sometimes, yeah, especially with indie filmmaking, sadly, yeah, the post production can take a much longer time than the production itself. But it's going to pay off at the end if you really stick to it and again stay truthful to it. So that's how I see it. I don't know if I answered it or if,
Yeah.
if it,
And I think I
uh,
very much agree with you. And I would even just like to piggyback off of that. I would say like the other component of it is cultural because
right.
this medium, you know, uh, yes, the sound is so important. Why? Because sound and music are very important in the world. Aesthetics, which it contains, uh, uh, storytelling. Um, which is integral to everyone
Hmm.
and anything that takes off. Simple way of saying like it's the medium that contains all the other mediums. It contains
Hmm.
every medium that in and of itself is its own sort of has its own culture. And so maybe this is even a bigger thing than like a classic, but um, something that does something that like culturally hits all of those notes at the right time. And I'll just this kind of ties to what I was saying before, where I don't know that I would always recommend a classic, but or I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but I'm just going to use Breathless as the example. Godard is my favorite filmmaker. Truly is like the one who like made me understand that really is that like kind of just blew my brain and like oh this can be a movie and I think culturally, like Breathless maybe did that to an extent. It invented the jump cut. It clearly, like, it was culturally, like, did something that nobody else was doing. And if somebody can do that, like, it can really lend its mark. So um, I guess I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, like, also, like, there's something about being culturally uh, in step and not following trends in the filmmaking medium itself, but looking at maybe what's happening in these other cultural elements that film contains and putting them into film is something that has been very effective in the past. But all I'll say is, like, but I think Breathless is like one of Godard's worst movies in his like first decade of filmmaking. So I wouldn't, and I always feel like people miss out on him because they always look to
Mm.
Breathless. Um, but I don't know. I don't know why I feel like I was going to say more with that, but I guess I was trying. I know what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, like, um going back to like a lot of what we've been saying. I think that if there is like a new um era of filming, I think the role of this new era of filmmakers is going to be that their job, and this is where the cultural element comes in. And yes, there needs to be good storytelling, and yes, there needs to be great attention to sound, but they also need to prove that they are human. That's,
Right,
I think, going to be this new job of filmmakers, is that they have to somehow prove that they can do something that AI can't. Because
right.
I know for a fact, and I have talked to very, very, very intelligent people, and one of the biggest conversations I've ever had that has like left a sharp impact on me was when I was working at Google. I was talking to somebody who's an extremely intelligent, creative person, and we talked in detail, and he's someone I greatly admire, and I remember him explaining to me how AI is going to basically replace art. And
Hmm.
I think if somebody as intelligent as he is, like, truly believes that, and I think there's a lot of people like him, that means that there are a lot of people that I think really believe art is something that can be automated. And so I think that is the new cultural, like, thing to address. And so
Mm.
I don't know if this totally taps into what we're saying, but I think that if there is a new era of filmmaking, I think that's going to be at its core. Um, because I think there's a lot of people who think that art can be tailor-made for people.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, the story really needs to have that heart and soul that comes from the human.
Yes.
So otherwise, because that's the thing that an AI cannot have or does not have. So, and like you said, it needs to really proves that coming from a human, from a good place, good heart, good soul. So, and gives those values to that core of the film. So, yeah.
These are all subjective things that I think a lot of people have trouble measuring
Right.
subjectivity. Um, we'll see. All
Hmm.
right. Uh, this has been fantastic and
Thank you.
very
It was
long
nice talking
question.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'll end it with one last thing.
Okay.
What do you how do you anticipate your next year?
My next year,
What are your goals or anticipations for this next year with this
I
new
do really hope, obviously being able to finish my editing gigs, but at the same time, I hope it gives me an opportunity to make my own first feature as well. So we shall see. If not, at least I hope I, keep getting gigs in filmmaking and storytelling so I can help others, until I get my own chance. So I'm okay with that too. Others have done it, you know. But like I said, I'm just I'm one of those people just love telling a good story or watching a good movie, you know. So and it's crazy. Like you were asking me about earlier about the film industry or the culture in LA. So yeah, sometimes it's very competitive. Like it's just crazy to me that I just moved away from it and I don't even look at it. And when I watch a great film, I just appreciate it and just like one of my best friends, like one of my from my movie families in Chicago. He got a gig and he loves the show The Bear, and he got a chance to do a role in that show. And I'm like, it didn't make me jealous at all. Like it really made me proud. And so yeah, that's what I mean. Like I if I get a chance to help good people and they shine, that makes me proud as well. So that's my goal, to be more involved and dive more into uh filmmaking. So that's I hope I know it. A lot of people, like I said, that say it's a rough time. I should go back to engineering industry, but I'm genuinely happier, more and somehow more optimistic. I don't know, like you said, maybe the deep down, I do really believe that this is the new era of film history that is happening, and I really want to be part of it. So yeah, that's probably it. So
Well,
yeah, that's how I see it.
if it is happening, I am very confident that you will be part of it.
I hope so. Thank you.
Knowing you. Uh, well, thank you, Sam. This is
Thank you.
great. Um,
Thank you, Avi.
we'll
I
wrap
really
this.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it. We'll be in touch and yeah,
we
go
won't
ahead.
be talking a lot the next
Yeah,
week.
absolutely. Yes, yes.
Just we'll wrap this up by saying this series, if anyone is watching this stuff, this is because of your idea. So let's hope that like uh, I don't know. I don't know what I hope. This is
All
more
the
me
best.
than anything like I could have thought of in terms of like introducing the how special this movie is for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, um,
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Very appreciate it.
I'm going to end recording.
All right.